Hey there, Amy Demas with Communicate Excellence. Have you ever thought about parents and patients being harder to schedule than ever? Or have you ever noticed that certain times of the day are slammed in the clinic? Could it be that we are unintentionally giving up control when we're trying to schedule patients and either frustrating them or being pushed around? Take a look and listen in to these 10 most common scheduling mistakes and see what you think. Make the changes here, and you may also agree, like many of my clients who say, once I changed this was a game changer. Take a listen.
It's great to be with everybody this evening, and we're going to go through the top 10, and actually top 10 plus a few bonus ones at the end. So when we think of scheduling mistakes, they have a big impact, and you're going to notice that several of these are going to actually dovetail into each other, because it's like a rack of dominoes. When one begins to fall, they all begin to fall after each other. So you're going to notice that they're intertwined, and that is how we exactly get stuck in the yuck. So let's start this countdown and find ways to fix these mistakes. First mistake, the wrong mindset. We have to remember at this point of an interaction with our patients or parents, we're dealing with people's calendars. And everyone wants as much control as possible on their calendars. So even if people are not a controlling personality by nature, it's amazing how controlling they can be when we get to this calendar component. So if we have this mindset where we have this misplaced obligingness or this deference where we defer, how may I help you, sir? This is not the place for that. This is not when we say, whatever do you want to do? The customer's always right, or just don't create waves. That's misplaced obligingness. What it does, it implies that we'll do anything the customer wants to do. And it inadvertently implies that we may bend over backwards to do anything for them. Now, I'm not saying that we forego this type of politeness and deference throughout our interaction. I'm saying it's misplaced. We use that at the beginning. How may I help you? I'd be happy to help you. Or we use it at the end. So glad you came to see us. Or have a great day. Those are the places for that obligingness, but not when we're scheduling appointments. What we need is this calm, assertive energy. This is a picture of Cesar Millan, the dog whisperer. And he always talks about this calm, assertive energy. And sometimes when we hear the word assertive, we go, oh, does that mean we're being bossy or pushy? It does not. Actually, I love the words that he says about it. He says calm, assertive means always compassionate, but quietly in control. I don't know if you've ever watched Cesar Millan on the Dog Whisperer, but he can turn a non-compliant dog into a compliant dog just with this calm, assertive energy. He also says, and if you give your dog any opportunity for him to lead you, he'll take it. Now, I'm not saying our patients and parents are dogs, but we can use this type of mindset, that calm, assertive energy. It's what gives us that backbone when we have to schedule. So let's make sure that we use the right mindset first of all. Well, mistake number 2 is this. We give away control. And I already told you that they are more than willing to take control because they want control of that calendar. So we don't want to accidentally give it away. How many of you have ever said or heard, when do you want to come in? If you have not heard those specific words, you've heard a variation of it. Do you want morning or afternoon? Oh my goodness, that opens up a can of worms of when do you want? And what can happen is you are then, you change from being who's is the negotiator and who's the responder, and it turns it into a guessing game. So when you say, when do you want to come in? And they go, how about Friday evening? No, we're not open Friday. Tuesday at 4? No. It turns into a game of battleship. Like A1, no. B7, miss. And then we wonder why they're frustrated, because we've put them into this guessing game that it frustrates them, or it puts them in so much control that they are dictating, you will find me something after 4, and now you must oblige to them. So I don't want you giving away control. What I want you doing, go to the first available. I want you to be a guide. Think of air traffic control. How many times does a pilot, when it's time to land, tell air traffic control when they're landing? Never. It's air traffic control who is saying, American Airlines 1, 2, 3, 4, you're landing on such and such a runway at such and such a time. Or if it's foggy, you're going to circle around and you're going to come at this time or this time. Which is it? It's that level of guide that I want you to have. It goes right along with that mindset, making sure that you're in control. You've got the big picture, especially as scheduling coordinators who are doing the most of the scheduling, or even clinicians. You have that big view. You have those grids that we have that we are looking to comply to. You don't want to open up and say, when do you want to come in? And then have to nix them and say no, or get painted into a corner. A way to do this is, you may feel like, well, that feels too harsh. Well, you can soften it and say, the first availability happens to be 1 in the morning at 10 and 1 in the afternoon at 3. You can give a morning and an afternoon option to see which one they may land on. The reason you need to be a guide is you are actually predicting how that clinical day is going to flow tomorrow, in 2 weeks, 4, 6, 8 weeks out. You are really giving the first indications of how that day is going to go. You have a lot of power and control, and I don't want you giving it up. So that was our second error and how to fix it. Our third one, what is it? Well, I just did it, the question inflection. It's that upward lift that you hear at the end of a series of words. It implies a question or implies I'm not sure. You may notice that, especially as each young generation comes up into their adulthood, we tend to notice that they put a little ask at the end of each of their statements, and it can sound like they're not sure or unconfident. Well, have you ever noticed that that is a wish? And what does a wish do? Have you ever noticed parents when they're trying to get kids off a playground? The strategies that are used have different levels of effectiveness. A parent who says, Johnny, we're going to go, okay? Okay? That's a wish. And when you make a wish, they may not intend to grant you your wish. And if you want to force them out of what they wish to do, you may be set up for a battle. So when we say, I have a 2 o'clock, it's like, I hope you do take it, or do you want to take it, or I hope you kind of do. It implies that they can choose whether they really like it or they don't like it. And if you then have to work at it for so terribly long, it feels like there's a battle. And here's the thing, as that takes longer and longer times, I have heard 5-minute phone calls where 3.5 minutes of it is simply trying to find an appointment because we're going round and round and round, and I hope you want it. Well, imagine if you can get that done in a short period of time, you're actually going to be ready for the next patient who needs your attention. So how do we fix this wish? I want you to remember that we need to use grounded, have a grounded statement. What this means is you're going to say, Dr. Smile has a 1 or a 2. Do you hear how that sits down? 1 or a 2. That is how you remove the emotion out of it, and it has that downward inflection. I want you to get all that icky out of your belly, and I want you to offer it as a statement. Think about when you get to the end of an interaction, end of a phone call, you do this as a statement. You say, all right, great helping you. We look forward to seeing you Monday at 2. That's a statement. I want you to treat the offering of appointments just like you do the stating of a done deal fact at the end. It's the same thing. Grounded statements. Moving on. Number 4. A question intro phrase. This is very close to what we just talked about, the question inflection at the end. This is the question phrase at the beginning. It's when you lead in with, could you do? What about? And when you lead in with that question phrasing, it leads you into that wishing mode. Could you do 2 o'clock? It just takes you right on into that question inflection and that wishing mode. You're like, could you? I a lot of times hear this when people are needing to reschedule their appointments. What about? Oh my goodness. If they're having to change an appointment, we should be more in a statement mode than that. Here's how you fix it. Lead in with a statement phrase. Dr. Smile has. The first available is. You've got these active verbs. Not could you do, but first available is. What this does is that fosters that statement and that guiding tone. It demonstrates your authority of, yep, this is what it is. Or if you bring in the doctor's name, it draws upon the authority of the doctor as well. Because the doctor is the one that has the limiting schedule. They are the one against many who are coming in. So the doctor has, or the first availability is. So we want to use a statement lead-in phrase. Moving on. Number 5 that we have, I call it this middle wiggle. Those who have coaching with me have heard this term before. And sometimes it's this hanging, and I'll demonstrate it on the next one. But sometimes it can also be that groveling that we do that can happen when we're looking and thinking and trying to talk at the same time. Oh, what I have is, and you get into this grovelly voice. But the other place that I notice it's this hanging inflection. And like I hinted at, it usually comes from when we're searching on the grid versus using the search functionality that Ortho 2 has. Somebody calls in as rescheduling. It's not something that we're looking for 6-8 weeks out in advance. It's something that we're looking for in the next day, 2, 3, or a couple weeks. And it comes, we're searching the grid and we're going down one by one, day by day, column by column. And we may lead in and say, could I do have a 1 o'clock? And it's like, oh no, I don't have another one to offer. I don't have a second time. And you kind of get hanging. I have a 1 o'clock and it hangs and we got stuck. But the other thing is, even if you didn't get stuck, I have a 1 or 2 and it's got that hanging sensation, that leaves it open to interpretation. If I have gotten to know a scheduling coordinator's voice quite well, and they normally state, I may hear a slight middle wiggle and say, okay, I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt of a statement. But going back to what I said from very first of all, remember, callers and parents and patients want to control their calendar. And when you leave it open to interpretation with that hanging inflection, they go, there's my in, there's my chink. I'm going to take it as a question and I'm going to grab control. So what do we do? Especially if we got left hanging and I couldn't find something. The way to fix this mistake is to do this. Add a fact. It's like adding on an addendum. What you can do is state a doctor, day, or location. So if you say, I do have that 1 o'clock or 2, and that is with Dr. Smile, and that is in our office A, and that is on Tuesday. Add a fact to the end, and what that does is it masks that wiggle, or it masks an ask when you add on one more fact. What it's doing is it leaves that last impression of that interaction as a statement, as a fact. So it's an easy tip to add on to when you found, oops, I had an oops there. Moving right along, number 6 is adding color commentary. Now, I want you to leave color commentaries to the radio announcers for sports, not for us when we're offering appointments. It's when we do this, well, this may be too soon for you, but I do have this, or it may be too early in the day. I know it's this. No. Don't put your emotions, don't put your opinions in there, because sometimes those opinions sound like you're apologizing. It's almost like you're, that sucking in between your teeth sound. Oh my goodness, like, I'm so sorry, or it sounds apologetic, or you're justifying. I want you to remember, all open appointments are good appointments. All opportunities to get in to get treatment are good options. Keep your color commentary out of it. The fix for this one, just the facts, ma'am. Now, I almost pulled up the old Dragnet picture, but Sergeant Friday, I think that it was actually Dan Aykroyd who modified a couple statements from Sergeant Friday who said this. I want you to state the option in clear, short sentence. Dr. Smile has A or B. That's fact. I also want you to keep the day and times together, keeps the facts together. Avoid saying, I have something I have Tuesday, May 25th. And you wait for them to answer. Because that's, again, where they can interject, okay, I'm looking at that day, I could do 4. No, I didn't give you the time. I have May 25th at 1 or 2. Keep the day and the time together. Don't give an opportunity for them to get in there. Keep the times together. And then if you have any limitations, such as this is in a morning only time, or maybe it's a new patient exam and you don't do any after 2, you can say, I can offer you our latest opportunity at 2 o'clock on Monday the 25th or Tuesday the 26th, which works best for you. Don't give any justification of, well, you see, like we don't, and oh. Not justification, just the facts, ma'am. Moving right along, using the wrong follow-up question. So after we've given this fact, a lot of times we have this sensation of, I got to get a question out, because normally when I have my wishers, I have at 2 o'clock, and I'm trying to get them to be staters instead of questioners. They've got this sensation of, I got to get a question urge out of my system. And I also want to use a question because it toggles it to your turn to respond. We just have to make sure that we use the best and most effective question. So after we've stated a fact, if we go, do any of those work for you? Again, it goes back into that wishing mode. And what it does is it implies there's numerous options. I like to say, if I've given you 2 options, I say, do any of those work? It's like, I've got these 2, but I've got a bag full of 100 more, which is like, just ask me again. On occasion, this can be asked, but it cannot have any of that wishing tonality to it if you have it as effective. The better and best way to use a follow-up question is this. Which one works best for you? So we've said, Dr. Smile has A or B. Which works best for you? What that is a leading question. And it implies that options are not limitless. Think of it like this. You know those TV court shows, Judge Judy and all them, and they say, hey, you're leading the witness. Well, yeah, here we're leading the caller. We're leading the patient. We're leading them to choice A or B. Yes, they may say none of the above, and then you move on to the next ones, A or B. Which one works best? Now, you wouldn't have to use the follow-up question after every iteration of offering times, but at least that first one, it implies that leading. I'm leading you to the choices that I've given you. This also works well when we've got that control scenario. When somebody wants control, they really are wanting options and authority. So we're giving them 2 options and then passing over that authority to choose between those 2 options. Which one? Which one? Counting us up, number 8, rescuing. Sometimes we don't let people self-solve. We just get in to try to solve and rescue it for them. It's when we offer something and before we even give them a chance to consider that option, we're on to the next one. We say, I can do 1 or 2, but I can also look for a 3 or 4. It's like, let them sit with the 1 or 2. Let them see if that option even works. Doing this is another display of your opinion. It's like, oh, I'm so sorry, I offered you a bad one. Let me give you another one. Implies the offer's not good, or that they can't solve a time challenge. And it unintentionally enables. It's like we're trying to pad them from any discomfort. And in the padding them from any discomfort, we're actually making it harder on our team. So here is how you solve it. And this one may feel really uncomfortable. It's let the pause work. What I want you to do is wait for their reply. And it can feel like the clock is ticking on forever. Just breathe, and I should say smile. This was really hit home for me one time when I was training one of our scheduling coordinators in my husband's office. We had a young teenage girl who had to work because her father was on disability. She had gone and gotten her GED, and she was a 17-year-old working for us as a scheduling coordinator. Curly, beautiful hair, Pollyanna disposition. She had been watching me schedule, and it was now time for me to shadow her and watch her. Here's how her first day went down. She sat in the chair, and she's just this bubbly, perky girl, and it's her turn to offer the first set of appointments, and up comes one of those moms, and you're like, oh my goodness, she's going to eat her alive. And she offers, I see Dr. Demas wants to see us in 6 to 8 weeks. So looking at the calendar, my first available is Monday at 1 or Tuesday at 2. Which works best for you? And she just sat there. That mom had that day timer. She's flipping through. I'm sitting next to my scheduling coordinator, and I can feel my tummy start to get all anxious, and I'm about ready to do that trainer interjection of pointing to her grid saying, like, there's 3 and 4 o'clocks. But before I could go with that urge, the mom goes, all right, I'll take the 2. I'm like, oh, that worked. I'm like, okay, wait a minute, does that really work? And she did it again and again and again. I was like, wow, that's amazing. And so I turned to her and I said, all right, tell me what was going on through your mind as you did that. She said, well, you told me to take control of the calendar. And I figured if I offer 1 or 2 and that doesn't work, I can then offer 3 or 4 and I'm going to look like a hero. But if I offer 3 or 4, they're never going to go back to 1 or 2. And you told me to be in charge of my calendar. So I just waited for her to let me know if it was going to work or not. There you go. It's when you learn from the young ones. And she taught me so well that pause will work. On to number 9. Too many options. Oh, options. Oh my goodness. It's all right. So we have 10 to 10, 9, 10, 10, 10, 10 to 2, 10 after 3, and you're like, holy cow, what's going on? Confusion, wow. It causes overload. Think of all the parenting advice you may have heard. You know, you never ask your child, well, what do you want? Or start listing off a dozen options. You give controlled and limited options. It's what we call that 2-option technique. You offer 2 at a time and then 2 more if needed. You see an asterisk on here. Here would be the couple places where you can do it a little differently. Say you have times that are on the o'clock, the 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock. If it's something very easy that they can hear and comprehend, I do have 9, 10, or 11. That's easily understood. It's when we start getting different hours and minute combinations that are confusing. Even if you had the same minute associated, I have 9:30, 10:30, or 11:30. That would be possible. Now you may say, Amy, hold on. What if I'm trying to schedule something and the schedule's wide open? Why can't I just offer lots there? Well, it can be it's overload. So a way to use this framework is to say, I have something as early as 8 and as late as 2 with some options in between. That still is not information overload and provides that 2-option technique for us. We want to make it easy, make the choice easy. Then number 10, it's when we are saying no problem. And this tends to happen when somebody calls in, and I call it the last minute reschedule. And we go, oh, sure. And we placate to them. It's like they are standing over us and we just kind of roll up and go, okay, whatever you want. And we take it as a directive, especially when that mom says, oh, I want just slide my appointment over to 4 o'clock tomorrow. Sensation. Well, hold on a minute there. You know, what this does is, when we get into that mentality, all of a sudden we're playing Tetris with the grid, and we're like, okay, if I can move, and I can move, and we're manipulating and trying to manufacture a slot that fits into 10, 20 minutes when it was never designed to be that way, versus actually stating actual holes. We'll do that in the fix, but it gets us in the wrong mentality. And also, when we start going like that, we wreak havoc in the clinic. And when we squeeze people in, that's when more errors happen in the clinic because we're making them rush. They can miss a step, or it can be done too quickly. And the patient usually is waiting longer than expected, or they come in for another repair. We're not helping them. We're also unintentionally teaching them that, okay, it doesn't matter. There's no even soft consequence for rescheduling, and it doesn't set us up for guiding. This one is an uncomfortable one a lot of times for people because they feel like we must help. But here's the way I want you to lead this off. The first thing I want you to make sure you're telling that person is, what I'll be, I'm going to be happy to help you. What I'll be doing is looking for the first availability to help keep you on track. That is a key thing, because last minute reschedules, I like to define them as this. If your normal rotation is 8 weeks, a last minute reschedule is anything halfway through the rotation. So anybody who is trying to get on the books in the next 4 weeks. If your rotation is normally 12 weeks, that would be a last minute reschedule anytime in the next 6 weeks. So this means it's usually 3 types of items. People who are rescheduling, sometimes the same day rescheduling. It's people who never made their appointment when they walked out of the door the last time and they now remember, oh, am I supposed to be coming in? Or it's your emergencies or comfort visits. So the first thing I want you to do is set that guiding directive. What I'll be doing is looking for the first availability to help keep you on track. That way, when you offer, hey, late morning, early afternoon time, because that happens to be what's open, they can't go, well, she's just a meanie. No, I'm trying to keep you on track, meaning I'm trying to keep you as close to this time as possible. When we say that, it's a soft education and directive, and it empowers us to actually offer true wholes instead of trying to manufacture those wholes. Now I realize when you offer that 10 or 1 because that's what's available, and my Johnny's in school, you're going to get that pushback. And what do you do then? Well, I want you to inform them of the unintended consequences. You're going to inform them and leave the choice up to them. Here's what I mean. Imagine I had a wild idea that I wanted to climb a huge mountain. I had this bucket list item. I'm going to climb the Himalayan mountains. I would hire a guide. I would practice hiking. I would probably go somewhere with higher elevation and colder temperatures and a heavier backpack. But there would come the reality of when I'm actually climbing that mountain with my guide, that I would probably get partway up and go, ugh, this pack is heavier. The air is thinner. It is colder. I'm tired. And I may say, I just want to rest. And a good guide would say, Amy, yes, we can rest. But if we rest now, we will not reach the summit today. And if we don't reach the summit, you're going to have to wait till next season. So do you wish to rest or do you want to go? And I'm going to go, oh, you're right. Let's keep going. A lot of times with that type of mentality, if we can provide that to our callers and our patients and our parents, when they say, I want the 4 o'clock, I'd be happy to help you. As we're in the middle of our rotation, that's likely going to put us out another 4 weeks, impacting treatment time. Do you wish for me to look for the 4 o'clock or something closer to what the doctor has prescribed? Which works best for you? Oh, you've subtly taught them that there's an unintended consequence of more time, but you can have it, or what the doctor's prescribed, a good, powerful word. You would be surprised at how many people go, oh, really? Maybe I can get their aunt to bring them. Maybe grandma can bring them. Maybe older brother can. It's amazing how sometimes you kind of shake them out of their comfort zone of wanting that short-term goal instead of that long-term goal. They're like, yeah, I want to get done with treatment. That's the long-term goal. Here's the thing though, if they keep offering and they want that 4 o'clock appointment and you put it out 4 weeks, notate it. I like to put it in the notepad. Some of you may like to put it in the treatment chart. I like to put it in the notepad because then when, let's say you set an estimated treatment time of 24 months, you know that when it gets to 24 months, they have already put an alarm on their phone, everybody's phone, ding, 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 ding. Hello, why aren't we done with treatment? You would then have the ability, and I would tag it as one of the appointment notes. Mom wished for a 4 o'clock, informed her it would add 4 weeks. Mom wanted 4 o'clock, added 4 weeks. It would then give you that breadcrumb trail in order to say, Mrs. Jones, I see that 4 o'clock was important to you, and a few times, you just needed to reschedule it. Actually, that puts us ahead of schedule, because that added on 2 or 3 months. You're going to find a graceful way of saying it, but you're going to be able to come from a place of knowledge and confidence that it wasn't our, always our fault only. It was because of some of their choices that they made. Now, I went through 10, but I left room for a few bonus ones. Bonus number 1, scheduling mistake, lack of support. I call it the long appointment hot potato game. Okay, I love you doctors, but sometimes you simply want those patients to go away to the front desk and they can work on getting that long appointment scheduled in the morning because you don't want to have anything to do with them when you tell them it's a morning appointment. They got to take time off of work at school and blah, blah. You're not doing your scheduling coordinators a favor. Don't cower. I need you to support your scheduling coordinators. Here's how to resolve it. Each role builds on a little piece of information, and you're going to celebrate the milestones in progress. Now, I know our treatment coordinators have already said at the new patient exam that there's going to be times of long appointments that are in the morning, but there's just so much information, TMI, in that new patient exam, and they have selective amnesia anyway. So we're all going to have to add on to this. What this means is we have the same message, but we're each playing a different role and adding on a different component. So doctors, I know you can handle this. You get ready to get up from that chair from seeing them, and you're going to say, Johnny, great news, we've reached a milestone, for whatever reason it is. Next one's going to be a long appointment. The only piece of information you have to give is a long appointment. I think you can handle that. And our assistants, you're going to tag on to that as you bring them up to the front. I will take you up to the front to our scheduling coordinator. They're going to be looking to make that long appointment in the morning. Now you've added on that little piece of information. Now when the scheduling coordinator gets to it, they are simply making the appointment. They're choosing which day it is if you only do long appointments in the 10 or 11 a.m. hour. You haven't had it be an abrupt, full-on information. Scheduling coordinator says, oh, I see, we're going to do a long appointment, and we say it's in the morning, and mom stands in front of him and goes, what? Does the doctor know you're doing that? Yeah, we know the doctor knows about it because he's the one who ordered it. And so this keeps that mom, and instead of getting all huffy in front of the scheduling coordinator, we've heard it 2 other times beforehand. So each role build on. I like to think of it as a musical song where we have the bass, tenor, alto, soprano. All those parts are working in harmony with each other. And when we add on these parts, it's harmonious to each other. We're not saying identical things, but we're building on. Bonus number 2, no VIP plan. This may seem counterintuitive, but let me explain. We all have PITAs in the office, right? Pain in the beep, 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 beep. We all have them. Here's the thing. Ignoring the challenges doesn't make it better. And some of these PITAs are influencers, especially in the social media induced world. PITAs can make us cower and moan and run and go into tears. And then sometimes we finally say, okay, we're going to buckle down. We're going to hold policy. We are only and we are never. And then we get somebody who says, okay, we're going to hold the line. And then the PITA just bowls all over them. And they get back to you, the doctor, or you, the office manager, or you, the lead. And we go, okay. Well, now you've undermined the team when you said we're going to hold policy and not. These are the PITAs that are especially challenging or that we need a strategy around are those ones who they've got the doctor's cell phone number in their phone, or they go to church or play poker with them, or they're the school PTA president or something that is going to be of high influence. Trying to arm wrestle them into compliance may not be the best use of your energy and time. So and I recommend using a VIP tag. What that stands for is a very involved parent or patient. And we've got those visual tags. We never want to put anywhere on the chart, anywhere that says this is a trouble patient, because they read the charts. You leave it up anywhere, we're all nosy. What are they saying about me? They see they're a VIP, they're like, yeah, I am. They will not know that it's a very involved parent, helicopter parent, or a helicopter person. What I want you to do is agree as a team who those are. It should be a very small percentage of your patients, of your active patients. Like I said, it's those people who have a direct beeline to the doctor, a direct beeline to somebody important in the practice, a beeline to who knows what. Those people, we have a separate strategy. They have an enhanced policy, maybe. But give them that VIP tag so that we don't get that miscommunication of, I'm holding the line. We weren't supposed to. What we're doing is preventing unnecessary drama. And the final thing, the final bonus is not giving advanced training or coaching. Because here's the thing, you may watch this webinar, you may replay it, and if you ask the team and go, okay, everyone know that? Yeah. And it's when people say, I always do that. Oh, I never do that. Self-reporting is lovely, but here's the thing. We're not really good at self-reporting. There's this thing called the Dunning-Kruger effect. Let me explain what it is. You may not know the name of it, but you may recognize it when I describe it. Dunning-Kruger it's from a study, and the outcome of the study was this. They asked 100 US drivers, how many of you are in the top half of good driving? So 100 top half, that should be 50. 88 said they were in the top half. I saw another documentary. It was called 100 Humans. I think it's on Netflix. Fascinating one. They put 100 people in black sweatsuits, unidentified by name or anything, and they took them outside and put them in a 10 by 10 square, all divided up, each person in their own box. And then these scientists came in front of them with their megaphones and said, humans, look around at all your neighbors in this study. On the count of 3, I want you to raise your hand if you think you are in the top half of good looking compared to your neighbors. 1, 2, 3. 90 out of 100 people said they were in the good looking half. That's the Dunning-Kruger effect. We're not good at self-assessment. The way to overcome that Dunning-Kruger effect, as we'll talk about on the next slide, is 1, you have to learn what a standard is, but 2, you have to get feedback to it. That's how you overcome this blind spot, this Dunning-Kruger effect. The other thing is mystery calls are not real scenarios. And so when we're getting feedback off of a non-real scenario, that's when somebody can say, oh, I always or I never, and it's not true because one and done is not a trend. And belief in knowledge does not always mean we change a habit. I mean, how many diet books and exercise books do we have on our bookshelf, but maybe our habits do not agree to that? So we have to have training. Individualized and systematic coaching does that. So I want to encourage you, record your calls and your exams. Then you have to get that feedback. It needs to be one-on-one because you have to do that in a trust environment. And then you may have to make sure that you're celebrating progress to that goal and that standard, because what we're doing is we want to make sure that we have a branded message, a branded experience, a branded feel, not rote memorization that we sound robotic in this. And then it's like rinse and repeat, 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 repeat. Before we get to our questions, I want to tell you the impact this can have when you are making these changes. This is Debbie, and I had the opportunity to work with her, and this is actually a picture later on. I first worked with her over 3 years ago, and she used to say, it's so scary working with those moms. I'm going to let you play the first recording, and you're actually going to hear bits from 2 songs. You get 2 calls. You're going to hear her offer the time in the way her before was, and you're going to hear about a 3-second break, and you're going to hear a second time. So you're going to hear her trend. And this volume has actually been turned up. She was just so meek. Here it is.
I can put, let's see, you're at 3:45 on February the 7th.
A lilt.
I can actually do 3:30 tomorrow.
Both those have that question like, and almost like, oh, I hope you do, I hope you do. Now, listen what happens after you get that feedback loop and you start using the correction of these errors. Now you're going to hear her offer on 2 different calls with the pause. Here it comes.
On Wednesday, April 24th, I have a 3:30. Would that work for you? Tuesday, May the 21st, I can do an 8:45. I even have a 10:45 or the 11:45. Which one works best for y'all?
Wow. In some ways, she doesn't even sound like the same person. This is what she said. So much more confident. It's so much easier now. Patients don't walk all over me. You know, calls are much shorter. Cool thing is I came across her doctor recently at a show, and it was 3 years since we had gone through our intensive, and he says she is a scheduling ninja and a rock star. She is who they send them to if you got someone hard to schedule. She learned and she turned the tide on there, and she sings a victory song around it. If you wish to learn more, there's always my book to refer to, or you can find me online.